to Susanna Naggie.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. So I think over the next, 120 minutes or something like that, we're going to be talking about the developmental core and highlighting some of the work and research that some of the folks from the developmental core, either from small grants or recruitment, have completed over the past year. So again, my name is Susanna, and I'm the co-director with Herman, and he asked me to do this today. And I just want to thank Kelly, who keeps us meeting and keeps things moving along for us. And then also representing the associate directors, which I will talk about very briefly at the end here as well, and introduce you to the concept and to the crew. So 3 things to focus on for the developmental core, which are kind of really the 3 primary aims and objectives of the core, which is providing services, and we'll review that. We'll talk about the progress over the past year, and then funding opportunities that we'll see coming in 2020. So again, when we talk about the primary services, pilot grants are a key part of what the developmental core is able to offer to the scientific community in the CFAR. And as you will see, these really lead to future grants, publications, and I think are really critical for many of our fellows and junior faculty to get these small pilot grants and support future work. Faculty recruitment is also a big part of this, and we'll talk about our latest faculty recruits. And then I think mentoring services, I'm not sure how much people are aware or appreciate how much mentoring goes on, and I will say that Herman is the heavy lifter when it comes to the mentoring of many of the folks that have participated in the mentoring services, and I want to highlight that because he has a lot of free time on his hands, and I want to make sure that people utilize this service. All right, so pilot funding, and really this is the different types of funding mechanisms. So again, I'll highlight the pilot grants that have come out from the developmental core over the past year. But I think there have been some changes recently. So we've kind of switched back and forth as to whether or not postdoctoral fellows and clinical fellows are able to apply to this, and the answer is now yes. So faculty, again, postdoctoral and clinical fellows, early stage investigators really are encouraged. Another way that we try to utilize this pilot mechanism is to encourage investigators who don't do HIV research to partner with someone who does and come in and apply for these grants and really try to grow the community of HIV investigators at Duke. Again, obviously the research should focus on the HIV-related AIDS priorities, and these can be up to $60,000 for a pilot grant. I think the really nice thing that Herman and others initiated was really looking at ways to partner with other groups, and I'll focus on this, as you can see in the 3rd bullet, to really actually expand that $60 to maybe $120,000 if you can get a partner to come in and offer up the same amount of money. So the next one for this, as I think you already heard, will be coming up in 2020, so spring of 2020. We should see the solicitation come out somewhere in January or February, so keep an eye out for that. Time moves quickly, so you probably should start writing now. So microgrants, I think, are something that was developed maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but I think this is a really nice mechanism. So this is a rolling solicitation, so you can submit these at any time. And the concept really was that, someone may have a grant that went in, gets a good score, but there's a need for additional analyses or additional experiment. Or you have a review from a paper where there needs to be more work done, but you just don't have any money left in that grant or that discretionary fund that supported that. And this really is meant to help support those kind of last few things that are needed to really tie that up and get those submissions in. I mentioned partnerships, so you're going to see a great example of both the MEDEX and the UNC pilot grant partnerships today. And these are really, again, the idea here is potentially to target a particular need or a particular initiative. And I think, as Herman and I are now meeting with leaders across the campus to think about other partnerships. So you've heard about Reach Equity. We've talked with Dr. Kimberly Johnson. the CTSI, Dr. Ebony Bulware was here last year as the lead speaker, and I think we really want to think about how we can capitalize on these amazing institutes and centers across the campus to really target initiatives, encourage young investigators to come in and partner for some of these very specific topics. So you will hopefully hear more about that over the next year. So faculty recruitment, again, the CFAR does participate in faculty recruitments. The CFAR would not be the primary lead on a recruitment, but can certainly, especially for someone where there's great promise in HIV/AIDS related research, to partner with departments, centers, or institutes to support a faculty member, a junior faculty that's being, or even a mid-level or senior faculty member that's being recruited into Duke. And really the hope would be to bring those folks in again to the community, make them aware of all of the resources that are available, and support them as they kind of get their feet on the ground in a new institution. And then mentoring services. And I think that this is something that's, I don't know, at least it seems to me, expanded quite a bit over the past few years. And I think this is a critical piece to what the Developmental Corps does. So one is to work with the junior faculty and or fellows that are applying for grants to ensure that there's a development plan for mentorship. Most of these folks would have this developed already, potentially as part of a career development award or working with their primary mentor. But I think it's great to ensure that that is happening and to review that with those folks that have applied for these applications and or been awarded to make sure that they are kind of getting everything that they need. As you all know, I'm sure, mentorship increasingly is more of the it takes a village approach to things, and I think it's really nice for the Developmental Corps, and in particular Herman to offer his time to ensure that these plans are in place. And we actually have templates for these sorts of developmental plans and for mentorship plans, which seem like mentorship should really just be grassroots, but in many ways those can go awry if things aren't written down and have some planning in place. So as many of you maybe know, and I know some of the folks here have participated, in particular our new associate directors, in grant review training. So a lot of folks in this room sit on standing NIH or DoD review panels, and there's a lot to learn on how this works, and I think being on a panel teaches you how to write a better grant. And so bringing in young investigators, bringing in fellows to participate as we have pilot applications that get reviewed in a NIH kind of style grant review. All of the applications kind of mimic an R21 application. So these are the 6-page applications. And we really try to mimic a typical mock review panel as well, with a primary, a secondary, and that much despised third reviewer, to try to discuss these and have a healthy discussion about the quality of the science. And so again, for those that are looking at submitting these applications, whether it's a microgrant or again in the spring for the pilot grants, we do offer pre-submission review. We're happy to go over your specific aims, happy to talk about the grant itself to put you in the best possible position when it comes forth to the review panel. And the other really important thing is that if it isn't funded on the first pass, is that we will sit down with you to go over your summary statement, talk about what other opportunities you may have for resubmission, and potentially even encourage you to turn that around into a microgrant, because one of the aims did really well, but one of the aims didn't. And so let's look at focusing that onto a microgrant so you can still walk away with getting some of your work accomplished. So please, if you don't know that these exist, reach out to Herman or I, and we're happy to talk with you. So now I'm just going to review some of the awardees that have benefited from the resources. So again, kind of a show of the folks that have received awards. There are 8 over the past year, which is quite a number. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. So one is, one of these was a Duke-UNC Joint Prep Award, which is fantastic to see the benefits, again, of these sorts of partnerships. In the awardees, we have 5 PhDs and 3 MDs, so a really nice balance of basic and translational science and clinical science. 2 of these were North Carolina specific, so really targeting the epidemic in North Carolina, and 4 of these were global. And last night, while sitting on my couch and making slides, I thought it would be a great idea to make a word cloud. So I typed in the titles of all of the 8 awardees, and you can see here that there actually was a lot in common. So HIV, that's good. We're hitting those HIV/AIDS targets. Acceptability, which I think is great. North Carolina, that's where we are. Intervention, stigma, living with HIV, reduction in risk. So I think this is a really nice summary of the work that folks are doing in this room and folks that are doing some of the work that the Developmental Corps supports. And sorry, PrEP, it's in there too. Didn't want to leave that out. So you've already heard about the CFAR Supplemental Award. I think this is really exciting, and as we're sitting there thinking about this, these are smaller amounts of funds, but really the idea is to take these and then move these into really securing a larger amount of funding. So I think folks in this room, we really need to think about how to be strategic around ensuring that Duke is one of the leads in getting and securing these funds to move this forward. So again, you've already heard about the great work that Amy Corneli is doing. I thought it was great that we have Amy on 2 different hair days here. I don't know how that happened. And I think it's also great, this partnership with Meredith in New Orleans. This is a nice way for the Duke CFAR to expand the reach to other populations that are in great need and that are not necessarily tied to a CFAR. And I think thinking about how, again, we can harness other researchers and populations in the Southern epidemic who maybe are not tied to a CFAR to bring those folks in and do really great partnerships in research. So for the microgrants, again, just to highlight that these are available, the limit is $20,000, rolling applications. Generally should target a grant that's going in, a review that's been done, or a resubmission on a manuscript. And you can again see here some of the folks that have benefited from these. And I think some of these were actually turned around from pilot grant submissions that were turned into successful microgrant submissions. So faculty recruitment, we have 2 of our faculty here at Duke that were the developmental CFAR was part of the recruitment efforts. Many of you know Dr. Murray, who's been around for quite a while, and I was saying who actually shushed me at a soccer game this weekend, but that's a different story. So it's great to see Charles on faculty here in the Global Health Institute in the Department of Population Health Sciences. And then Dr. Trevor Burt in neonatology, who we will hear from actually in a little while, in the Department of Pediatrics. So it's 2 really fantastic recruits, and it'll be great to see more of them. So very quickly, I wanted to take a quick minute to just introduce the associate directors. So the idea behind the associate directors, so Dr. Okeke, Dr. Polera, and Dr. Richwood, again, as you can see here, representing clinical research, translational research, and social and behavioral research. The idea here, other than to make Herman and I look a lot younger and cooler, is to really harness the connections of this young and really rising star faculty of how do we reach out to other ESIs and junior faculty in the larger Duke community to harness some really energetic and promising folks and bring them into HIV research. Really, we're having them lead peer mentoring, and you're going to hear more about this from the 3 of them in a little while, but it's really fun to work with these 3 and to interact with them, and we appreciate the effort that they're putting into this.